weird. Ready? Let's see. Can't do. You do that. Does that help? A little bit. I don't usually do these live streams with headphones on, but the missus is home ill today, so she's resting. So I'm trying to keep it down while I do this. At least to the best of my ability. One of you so far. Hey, there's somebody. Serenity Guitars. What's up, dude? I am running a little behind today because honestly, I don't know why I got up a little earlier today than I usually do on Saturdays. I have no idea why that is, but it is what it is. So, um, yeah. Savinity's Guitar says dropping her real quick just to say rest in peace, 007. Yep, rest in peace, Sir Sean Connery, one of my all-time favorite actors. I was sad to hear that news this morning myself. You know, this year just keeps getting better and better, doesn't it? Mikey Gabbard, Ian Nunez, Jeff Seven, welcome to all of you. Mikey Gabbard says, Robert, have you tried the Dr. Pepper and cream soda? I have. Maybe I have. Probably. Maybe not. I don't know. I always. I love sodas and stuff, but the truth is, unless it's diet, I don't really drink it very often anymore because, as you get older, that's tends to stick with you a lot easier than it used to, and so I got to be careful putting that much sugar in me, but I think I have tried it. So John Jurowitz says, what do you think of Seagull Artist Series and the Godin guitars? Honestly, I think Seagulls are, Seagull and Godin and Simon and Patrick, Art and Luthrie, and I think there's one other brand, but they're all the same company. And regardless, the Seagulls are the acoustic line anyway that you see the most of, at least here in the U.S. And they're some of the best guitars for the money on the market today, and have been for a long time. I kind of think of them as like the Schecter of the acoustic world. You can get. I've never sold a Seagull. I've sold a lot of Seagulls in my career in the MI business, and I've sold a lot of Seagulls, and I've never had anybody that brought one back because they hated it. Never. So, there's something really, really unique about them, in that, especially with the nut width. The necks are a little bit wide, not a lot, but a little bit wider than a lot of other acoustics, like compared to like a Yamaha or something like that. And they are, the reason why is they're kind of designed for both, straight picking and, finger style guitar, and they do both really, really well. I've owned a couple Seagulls, and I've loved them all. I'd still have them, to be honest with you. The reason why I sold them is because it was 8 years ago, a little more than 8 years ago now, and I was selling them to fund my honeymoon. So, which I do not regret. Let's see. Dave Escobar's here. Serenity Guitars is here. Says Waleed was featured on Ola's channel. Hope I spelled his name right. Was he really? That's awesome. What was he doing? How was he featured on Ola's channel? Did he, Ola do a collaboration video or something? I follow Ola's channel, but I don't think I don't think there's a YouTube channel in the world that I watch every single video. So I do miss some of Ola's stuff. I don't have time to sit around and watch YouTube videos all day, unfortunately. So Ricky Compton's here. So you were up to 14 viewers thus far. I'm hoping the weekend, one of these days, I get that I can get this thing big enough that it grows to the point that it gets up over 50 consistently. That's my next goal. Right now we're cracking 30 and even 40 pretty consistently, but it'll spike up over 50 every now and again, and then drop back down below it. So I really want to grow this thing to get it up over 50. I haven't gotten there. It takes some time, but because everything with YouTube takes time. But on the way. Let's see. Ricky Compton's here. Hello to you. I think I said hello to you, but I may just in case I forgot. Dave Escobar says, ever try those Hot Tone Legacy floor amps, 2-channel pedal sized, Britwin and Mojo. Oh yeah, those little the little teeny, like they're really itty bitty sized heads, like even smaller than the Joyo band amps, like a lot smaller than those. Yes, I have. As a matter of fact, we had a when I was at the store, we had a Purple Wind, which was they called it the Purple Wind, which is a play on Jimi Hendrix. Basically, it was like an old Marshall JTM-45. Was what it was supposed to be modeling, and I think that's really the only one that I've ever actually gotten to sit down and play myself. But it was pretty cool, especially for what those things sell for. They're pretty, they're not expensive, so great little toss it in a gig bag, or even a recording amp. Really, if you're recording silently and just need to plug direct into an interface without a speaker cabinet, they're great for that too. Yeah, I like the Hot Tone, Hotone. I've always called it Hot Tone. Some of these new brands have like the worst marketing ever. If you a message to all gear companies that are up and coming. Make sure and you choose a name and a logo that clearly states how your brand name is supposed to be pronounced, because companies like Hot Tone and Nux, 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 whatever that one is. EART guitars. I just demoed one of those a couple of weeks ago, and in that video I didn't know how to pronounce it, so I went with ERT, but I've since been corrected that it's EART. Come up with better brand names. Ricky Compton says we need to get you 100 on Saturday. I'd love for that to happen, but let's walk before we can run. Mikey Gabbard says I recently got a hell of a deal on a half stack Marshall MA100H and Mesa 412 for $400. Wow, you got them both for $400? If you got them both for $400, I'm impressed. The cabinet alone's probably worth $600. The amp, I wouldn't. You couldn't pay me to own one of those MA heads, but that is not my favorite Marshall. But a lot of people like them. Casey Strange says, "Hey, Robert just bought a Friedman BE overdrive pedal and love it. Have you tried one yet?" Yeah, a buddy of mine has one, may still have it. I'm not sure. It's been a while, but he brought it over. Oh God, it's been several years now, but he brought it over and we checked it out here. I didn't turn on the camera or anything, but yeah, I got to play through it. It's a good sounding pedal, and I've seen some videos where people have actually AB'd the BEOD with the gain sounds out of the BE50 and the BE100 heads, and they're pardon me, they're not identical, but they're pretty close. So, Dave Friedman knows what he's doing when it comes to building gear. Dave Escobar says the hot tone amps of the floor models have 2 channels and reverb. Maybe I haven't tried on that. If you're not talking about the tiny little heads are the ones that I've played. If there's another floor model like a pedal version or something like that, I have not played those. Chris Case has got experience with the Randall RH200 amp. Traded a dusty BMX bike for one recently. It's in great shape. Seems pretty decent for what it is. If memory serves, that's the hybrid one, right? It's got it's got like 1 or 2 preamp tubes in the solid state power amp section. Yeah, they're not bad. We used to have one of those come through the store in the used market every now and again, and yeah, they're okay. Randall has put out a few clunkers over the years, but generally speaking, I mean, one thing that I love most of the tube amps. I love most Randall amps, period, to be honest. One thing that they don't seem to get credit for this, but they've always done really, really well as solid state amps. Like the original RG series amps, like the one, those are, now everybody's discovering them because they're learning that's what Dimebag used. So, along with plenty of others. Yeah, now Randall's always done solid state amps pretty well, and that one's even a little bit is a little bit different because again it's a hybrid, but still. Ricky Compton says just picked up a Marshall JCM 900 212 cabinet for $200. It's mint from 1988. Okay, that's not possible because the Marshall JCM 900 series didn't come out until 1990. So it's either a JCM 800 cabinet or it's a different year. Without knowing, if it says JCM 900 on the front of it, give me the serial number on the back, and I could probably tell you what year it is. But still, those are good cabs, man. Good old. Basically, it's the two. Well, it's not. It a lot of people view it as like the 212 version of the 1960, but it actually does have different speakers in it. But still, good sounding cab. But for $200, you could do a lot worse. Mikey Gabbert says, I recently sold a Randall RH100 head and wished I hadn't. There you go. Yeah, I'm probably going to be hanging on to my Randall heads for life. So, and I'm sure I'll pick up a few more along the way. So I'm done buying amps for a while though, man. I've bought 2 recently, and then and then a company sent me a couple more. I don't need amps. Lucas Siciliano is here. What's up, dude? Says, hey, Robert, how are you? Just connected. Welcome to you, sir. I am doing just fine. No complaints. Let's see, Mikey. Doc Amos Roxy's here. Good afternoon, sir. Mikey Gabbert says a good cab makes such a difference in tone. It's partially the cab, but honestly, I think the speakers in the specific cab have a lot more to do with it. And there's certainly garbage speakers out there. I mean, God knows I hate those stupid Celestion, those cheap ass Celestion like Rocket 50s or whatever they're called. The real cheap ones they put in the Line 6 Spider combos just so they can advertise them coming with a Celestion. I hate those things, but at the same time, I mean, vintage 30s, as popular as they are, I don't think they sound great in every single cabinet. I actually prefer the regular 1960 cabs over the vintage 1960 cabs, just because of the way the Marshall cabs are built. I like the G12 T75 speakers a little bit better myself. But at the same time, and a Mesa cab or an Orange cab, vintage 30s are absolutely the right speakers to go in those cabinets. So, but yeah, speakers, I think speakers especially make the biggest difference because, as Glenn Fricker uh, alluded to on and explained on his channel here recently, that's where the sound comes from. So yeah, that part's kind of important. Jack Bird says, "Hey Robert, have you ever thought about light without heat? Just asking for friend. Light without heat. Just asking for friend. Anyway, I love your show. What are your views on the the latest GC debacle? The light without heat thing, I have no idea what you're talking about. Unless you're talking like LED stage lights, then yes, go LED stage lights over old-fashioned park cans. But as far the latest GC thing, here's it's I mean, for some reason, because Guitar Center has become this controversial brand. And it's gotten to the point that people hate on Guitar Center just for the sake of hating on Guitar Center, even though they've never had a bad experience, or they've never even been to a store, whatever the case may be. They just see it on the internet, and that exacerbates it and amplifies it, et cetera, et cetera. But here's what I can tell you. The media or some quote unquote expert has Guitar Center going out of business about every couple of years these days. I mean, what I can tell you, people that work for the company right now are, so they barely paid any attention to it because it's employees anyway, because they're they're used to this all the time. Most of them don't make time like I do to defend GC, on the interwebs like I do. But that said, what according to some sources I have in the company this week, what it's basically it's debt restructuring is all that it is. And the question was risen, was brought, have we been overpaying on our interest on our current debt, and so that's what it's about. It's a matter of seeing if they can't find a better deal somewhere else. That's all it is. And meanwhile, everybody's, the media is going to make it out to think, oh, the sky is falling. We're, Guitar Center is going away. We're not going to have music anymore. And don't pay any attention to it. It's, trust me, they're not going anywhere. I assure you. Matter of fact, they're still hiring. Let's see. Ricky Compton says, I wish the cab was white to match my JCM 900 Mark II head that I have. It probably didn't cost too much to, take it to an Amtech or someplace to get Retolexed. And people Retolex cabs all the time. That's not very expensive. You can certainly make that happen. I've wanted to buy one of the later, the 5881 JCM 900s forever for the specific purpose of I want two of them. I want one that's hadn't been modded, a 5881 that hasn't been modded and left alone, so that I have one that's been hasn't been messed with, and then I want a second one so that I can modify it to death. I mean, I want to put like KT88s in it and change out transistors and tubes. I mean, I'm not myself, but have Kevin, my guitar tech, do it, or amp tech rather. Good morning, Robert. I just got an Earthquaker Swiss Things pedalboard reconciler. Those things are cool. Fixed my dual amp and dual pedalboard situation. Thanks for the splitter advice. Love the channel. Thanks. Yeah, those are those things. You know, when it comes to real weird oddball signal routing, somebody brought this to me a couple weeks ago with a similar question to what you were talking about a few weeks ago, and I said, here's this. By what my brain is telling me where signals are coming from and going to this, using this in the middle should work. So, so that's what she set him up with, and he actually ended up buying a second one because he loved the first one so much. So, yeah, hats off to Earthquaker Devices for that. Swiss Things that was a much needed device in our industry. I'm surprised nobody's come out with that sooner. DJS Guitarist 21 says looking for a guitar with a non-recessed Floyd Rose on it. What do you recommend? The non-recessed Floyd Rose. I think some of the EVH guitars, if not most of the EVH guitars, even the Wolfgangs and stuff that have Floyds on them, I don't think those are recessed. I could be wrong about that, but I don't think they are. Eddie was not a recessed Floyd Rose guy, so most of those are designed for based on what he likes. So check out the EVH stuff, and also you're really for the same reason. I know the old Kramers, I've got an '84 Kramer Focus that has a non-recessed Floyd Rose, and I think when Gibson just revived the Kramer brand here recently, I think they've got a couple of models with Floyds, I think there's a Beretta model even that might not have a recessed Floyd. So, off the top of my head, though, that's a couple of things worth checking out, and I could be wrong about both of them, to be honest. Most Floyd Rose people really most guitars are just being built with recessed Floyd Roses these days. So, it's a lot harder to find one with a non-recessed. Dave Escobar says, any thoughts on Blue Guitar Amp 1 nanotube technology? Owned or tried? I have not. I don't have any experience with them, but I know they certainly look cool, and I know they sound good. My friends David and Jim at the Practical Guitarist podcast, they actually had Thomas Blug on their show here a while back, and they of course they played through their played through his his amps and pedals and stuff, and they got them to sound pretty good. So okay, there you go. Ricky Compton says his JCM 900 cabs in '92. Alright, what is this weird error? YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. As such, viewers will experience buffering. Lovely. Alright, so warning. I don't know if that's my internet connection or what, but this thing could cut out. In which case, if it does, stay put. I'll be right back. I may need to, if I got to go restart my modem. That may take a little bit, but let's hope that doesn't happen. Dean Harkness is here. Yes, we bid Sean Connery, Sir Sean Connery, adieu here just a little bit ago. Rest in peace, Mr. Sean Connery. Sir Sean Connery. Sorry. Uh, Major Woody says, "Do you think they should start making 8-track tapes again?" No. Ricky says his cab has the G12 T75 speakers in it. Okay, so that one is the 212 version of the 1960. They do. There was another version of the 212s, or there is currently. I can't remember what speakers they put in the 212s these days. They did change them. I can't recall what they are nowadays, though. DJS Guitar says next amp I get is a Marshall Jubilee Vintage Reissue 100 watt. I wanted one since it came out in 2015. Fluff just got one of those and demoed it on his channel. He's a pretty happy dude. It seemed like with his new Jubilee. Yeah, Jubilees are cool, man. I played I played an original a few times. There's if you don't know this, there's two versions of the original Jubilees that came out in the 80s, and there's one that's rare and there's one that's really rare, and I actually got to play the really rare version of it, and it was pretty cool, man. Full stack too. That was an experience. T-Mine 100 is best distortion pedal for metal. Ooh. If you're willing to spend the money, Amp Tweaker Type Metal Pro. If you're not willing to spend that kind of money, then I would probably do something more along the lines of the Pepper's Pedals, Satanist Distortion, Boss Wazacraft Edition of the Metal Zone. Boy, I mean, those are among my favorites. If you're looking to really do it on the cheap, the Bayang Metal End King, both versions of the Metal End actually are pretty good, but the Metal End King is exceptionally good. And the what's the other one I was thinking of? The Blackstar HT Distortion X is a killer metal pedal. The only thing with that one is, number one, it weighs about as much as my house, and number two, it's got its own unique proprietary power supply. So if it doesn't have the power supply, then you got to go on Amazon and spend another $20-25 to get the right power supply for it, which is what I had to do when I bought mine. But if you don't mind messing with that and having a pedal whose power input is not compatible with anything else on your board, it does sound good. Dean Harkness says, "Have a coffee on me, sir." Thank you. Much appreciated. Much appreciated. Give me a minute to get caught up here in the chat. Christopher Bass is here. What's up, dude? Ricky Compton says, "I've always had great experiences at GC myself. I think they get a bad rap." I do too. And honestly, one thing that's turned out to be a lot of fun for me is, especially because they're all over the place on Facebook right now, is one of those Guitar Center threads that pops up, and you got somebody complaining about this, Guitar Center did this or Guitar Center didn't do that. So I started asking questions, because they almost always leave out, some really, really pertinent detail that Guitar Center had no control over, and it's actually the customer's fault. So once you call them out on that, I'm thinking about doing a Know Your Troll video specifically on my Guitar Center used gear video that I did a couple years ago, because I still get people, I still get people like complaining all over that comment thread all the time. It's hilarious. Let's see, Joey Van Ostren's here. Christopher's Bass says, I got it set in my head the combos are the way to go. I've heard heads sounding way too similar with the same cab. I don't know about. I mean, a lot of that. I'd have to know what heads they are, I guess. But I've always much preferred head and cabinet. Much prefer head and cabinet. So too many open back combos in there for my taste, to be honest. B Smiley III says, if it, up in the super chat says, if a turtle loses its shell, is it homeless or naked? I don't know. I asked you guys that, and I never got a definitive answer. I'm going with naked. Because, well, number one, a turtle's shell is actually attached to attached to its skin, and it can't lose it. But but assuming that it couldn't, I'm going with naked, because if I have a pet turtle in a tank and happens to lose its shell, it's certainly not homeless. I'm still there, and I'm still going to take care of him. But he needs to put his damn shell back on. B Smiley III says, hey Robert, are you a fan of doom metal? Good doom. I don't know. It might be a bit of a stretch to call me a fan, but there are some bands that I do like. I like The Sword. I like Candlemass. There's a few others. I'm not a huge fan of the genre by any means, but for those bands that actually are pretty good and do write and record good music, there's about 15 or 20 of those other doom bands that they record songs that are about two, maybe three chords if we're lucky, at about 4 beats per minute. And God knows I love making fun of those bands. I love making fun of those bands, and sometimes I can't help but make fun of people that use that use doom as a verb. Lucas Siliano says, "Excuse me, Robert. What do you think of the Crush Overdrive by X Gear? Since I took on last June, I can't play it without. I demoed that pedal on my channel about 2 months ago, and I was very impressed. Now, especially for if you're a metal player, that's the overdrive for you. Is the precision drive. That's the one everybody's all gung ho about. Because of that one's got Misha's endorsement on it and everything, and precision drive is great, but that Crush Overdrive is kick ass, especially if you're a hard rock or metal player. Yeah, Paul sent that to me. He reached out to me. He's like, hey, you want to demo this thing on your channel? And at first I had it confused with the Red Fury, which is like the hard rock distortion pedal that they have. And I was thinking of that one because Pete Thorne had just recently demoed that on his channel. And and he's like, no, this is the Crush Overdrive, the Pete Thorne demo the Red Fury. And I said, he said I was thinking of sending you the Blues Overdrive, but I think you're gonna have a little more fun with the Crush. And and I had just recently demoed the Blues Driver, and fell back in love with that pedal. So at first I was kind of bummed. I was like, I kind of rather demo the Blues Overdrive. But I'm glad Paul knew what he was talking about. I'm glad he Glad he sent me the crossover drive. That's, as a matter of fact, it's sitting on a shelf right above me, right here. Yeah, that pedal's awesome. Great pedal. Brandon C says Deem Sline USA ML. So the USA ML Dime Slime has a top mount Floyd non-recessed. Dave Escobar says non-recessed Kramer Berettas. Good. So I was right about that one. Ricky Thompson says he's got a new EVH Wolfgang Special Stealth with the same non-recessed Floyd. Cool. So I guessed right twice. Sweet. Let's. Christopher Bass says all the hassle of a Floyd and half the benefits. Once you learn how they work, and you practice on them, you figure out how to set them up. They're fine. See, David McBlain is here. Welcome to you, sir. That's actually a name I don't recognize. Dean Harkness says, how about the new AC/DC tune? I know it sounds like AC/DC, but after this year and losing Eddie, I welcome it. Give me comfort. Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot, actually. I mean, like you said, it sounds like AC/DC, which, quite honestly, at this point, if they put out anything that didn't sound like everything else they put out, I'd be pissed. AC/DC is supposed to sound like AC/DC, and that's what they did. I also thought it was cool that they brought in one of Angus and Malcolm's cousins to replace Malcolm. So at least they kept the rhythm guitar in the family too. So I think that's pretty cool. And Brian Johnson appears to be back with the band too. So it's good to see he's has gotten healthy again. So because I know he had. I think he had to step away for a while when they got Axl Rose to fill in for him. I think it was a throat, there was something going on in his throat that he couldn't sing. So. Let's see. Ian Nunez says recessed is opposite of floating, right? No, actually. They're all floating. But see if I get enough room that you can see it on this guitar. Let's try this. Maybe. Beating everything up. On this guitar, this is a Ibanez tremolo. It's not a Floyd, but the tremolo is on this guitar is routed out so that the Floyd, the tremolo system can sit down inside the body. And the idea there being that if you can get the tremolo and the bridge lower, you can move the neck forward a little bit more versus like with a bolt-on, usually non-recessed Floyds seems to be on bolt-on neck guitars, again, like Kramers and EVHs and stuff like that. Pardon me. So yeah, look up a photo of one of those guitars with Floyd Rose, and you'll see what a non-recessed Floyd looks like. The disadvantage to a non-recessed Floyd, though, is you can't pull back on them. So that's the reason why most people prefer the recessed Floyds, because the route allows you to go up or down with the trem arm. Christopher Bass says, like with a dive only, you'd have to dive, half dive it to get vibrato. That makes no sense. Vibrato should go up and down with pitch and centered around the note, not just go down below the note. I don't, I don't know. I think vibrato is the pitch of a note going up and down. Whether the bass note is at the top of that or in the middle or wherever. I don't really think there's a set rule to that. Strats and stuff like, Strat style tremolos, I always have those set up flat against the body, so you can't pull back on those either. Zoe's in the next room going, oh, I see why. There's her neighbor walking by. She's in there taking care of her mom today. Pinball Papier says it already buffered 3 times before you said something. Yeah, sorry about that. Who knows? I don't know what it is. My internet connection is, I got decent internet. It's AT&T Uverse is what it is, and it's. As a matter of fact, I just replaced the modem here recently too, and that usually fixes it. But this time it's still a little goofy. But they did increase our internet speed. Regardless. It's not, I guess my internet's not the most reliable thing in the world. Mikey Gabbard says the Genjin has one of the chillest live chats of any YouTube channel. I love it. Yeah, it's I enjoy it. I'd like to get some either some other channels and stuff. Get people from other channels come on and hang out with us. Via live stream or something like that. But at the same time, honestly, number one, I'm so with my schedule being what it is, I'm so erratic when I can actually sit down and do it. And number two. I don't know. I just enjoy sitting there hanging out with you guys for a couple hours on the weekend. So that's kind of what the when I first started doing these, I honestly didn't know what how I was going to format it or what this was going to turn into. I just kind of turned on the camera and figured out how to go live on YouTube, and whatever happened, and that evolved into this. So, about a year and a half later, here we are. But I'm glad you guys are enjoying it. So, part of that, I guess, also kind of came from inspiration from, like Pete Thorne's live shows. He does his on Sundays, and, his are really, really similar. And, you guys, if you followed my channel for a while, you guys know I'm a huge fan of Pete Thorne. So I kind of took some inspiration and, from what he's doing with his shows. And Fluff's doing a lot of the same thing, when he doesn't do live shows quite as often, but when he does, kind of the same style format. I'm also a big fan of Fluff's channel. So, Selekos, if I didn't pronounce that right, I apologize. It says, greetings from Greece. You still have the Hammer Scarab. Yes, the Hammer Scarab is not going anywhere, I assure you. The Hammer Scarab is not going anywhere. So that one's in, there's a lot of guitars in that room that I'm probably going to be buried with, but that one's among the top of the list. So, I just don't want anybody else to own it. Major Woody says, them troll videos rule. A lot of people enjoy it, but, honestly, the last one that I did, I took it a little bit too far. And and I actually, one dude got under my skin too much to the point that I actually posted a link to his Facebook, his Facebook page up on the screen of the video, and that was taking it too far. That wasn't cool. A couple of people called me out on it, and I had to put some, I thought about it and realized they were right, so I went in and took that part out. Um, but it got me thinking, well, a few other people brought it to my attention that, somebody said in particular, I would never do a troll video. We don't need that kind of negativity. There's enough out there as it is. And so, I don't know. Yeah, I honestly haven't decided yet if I'm going to do another one or not. I'm still kicking it around. I don't want to alienate anybody, but they're at the same time, they're fun to make, and there are a lot of you that get a kick out of it, get a kick out of them, but at the same time, I don't want to be known as the angry guitar YouTube guy. That's not really who I am at all. So I don't know. I haven't decided. I haven't figured out what I should do with that yet. Joey Van Ostrin says, for me, I found that most of the GC hate is unfounded. I am always treated well and get great deals. And there's actually been several people just in this thread today that have said that. I've bypassed a lot of the GC comments because I don't want to turn this into a Guitar Center, bankruptcy live show. But that is absolutely the case. They do still have a lot of customers that are been very happy with their service and they walk in. So. And when they leave. But for anybody that doesn't know, I mean, that's not exactly the easiest job in the world either. There's, that's a hard job. There's a lot of things going on that customers aren't aware of. That a lot of employees got to jump through a lot of hoops to get deals done, and sometimes that's a lot easier than others. Let's see. Charles 75N is here. Russ Keeney is here. Says greetings from Dayton. Nice Netflix recommendation, by the way. You must have watched Cobra Kai. Last week we were talking about my Mrs. Jackson was out of town on her own independent adventure for a week. So I was, it was me and Zoe at home all week by ourselves, and so I had time to discover a new to me Netflix series called Cobra Kai. Apparently, there's 2 seasons with a third one on the way in January. But if you love the movie The Karate Kid like you're supposed to, and you have not yet seen Cobra Kai, that's your fault. And that's what I said last week. I'll repeat it again as I just did, and that's all I'm going to say. So everybody needs to go on Netflix and watch Cobra Kai, and you can thank me next week as Russ just did today. John McDonough says, hello from London. Is the Music Man your favorite guitar pal? Of everything that I currently own, yes. Yeah, Music Man is definitely my favorite. And the best guitar I've ever played, really. I wouldn't complain if if a second one, somehow made its way into my possession. A friend of mine had one. He bought one not long, not too long after they came out. And for whatever reason, he didn't, he ended up selling it and didn't jive with it. But right after he got it, he let me borrow it, for specifically to demo on my channel. And if you go back and watch that video, it's a pretty old video now, but if you go back and watch that video, I mean, you could tell I was pretty excited about that guitar. And from the minute that I got done playing his, I knew I had to have my own. And I saved my money for the next year and a half and found one. And, pardon me. Um, I actually got lucky when I found mine too, because mine's a finish from that run called Gold Mine, and you see the red ones everywhere, the blue ones, the black ones, the white ones, the Arctic, what are they called, the Arctic Mist, whatever that multi chameleon color thing is, the copper ones. Those most of those colors are actually most of those colors are pretty easy to find, but the gold you never see. So and this one just initially I wasn't real thrilled about a gold guitar because I mean, for my own personal taste, it wouldn't have been my first choice. Like with Les Pauls, I'm not a gold top guy. I love Les Pauls, but gold top is probably one of the last ones. One of the last finishes I would choose. So I was kind of lukewarm about getting a gold one, but at the same time, this was I didn't know if I was going to see this price again on one this clean, and the buddy of mine who originally let me borrow his, I was talking to him about it, and he'd already sold his, and he's like, "Get the gold, dude. You don't see the gold. Most of those other colors are everywhere, but you never see the gold one." So I was like, "All right, you're right." So I bought it, and I couldn't be happier with it. There's my Music Man plug for the day. Christopher Bass says Pentagram is the only quote-unquote doom band that I could stand. I'm not familiar with them. Silico says any EVH favorite equipment. I was an old-fashioned PV 5152. Probably the top of my list. I do actually really like the current EVH, the 5153 current series of amps. I don't own one. I'd like, especially now that they came out that stealth version of the LBX lunchbox heads. That's probably I'd actually like to own all three of their lunchbox models. Because I don't need 50 watts. I certainly don't need 100 watts. But yeah, I'd like to own all three of those. B Smiley 3 says OG Guitars Vincent McAllister on the white Gibson SG was a monster. If only they broke through. I'm not familiar with them, unfortunately. Hayden Hartley says, "Do you like Reinventing the Steel, the Pantera record? Was that the last one?" Yeah. No, that was the album that sucked. There was one song, there was one track on that album that I thought was good. The rest of it I thought was total garbage. And I loved the first 4 Pantera albums. I loved everything Pantera had ever done up to that point. Reinventing the Steel was a big disappointment, in my opinion. Johnny Piston says, if you put roast in a roaster, what do you put in a toaster? Fan of Wampler Triple Wreck myself. What do you put in a toaster? Good question. Good question. Is it bread or is it toast? Don't know. Is a hot dog a sandwich? I say no, but Andrew Conkey says, "Hey Rob." Oh, no, we're done with that one. Let's see. Dean Harkness says, "I thought it was a nephew." I think my understanding, I think it was a cousin. Was my understanding. So I could be wrong, but I think it was a cousin of Angus and Malcolm's that replaced Malcolm and AC/DC. Brian Johnson was having hearing issues. Okay, hearing loss, not throat, not. It was something. It was something in his head, obviously, something that was preventing him from, going on stage, performing on stage in front of the audiences that they perform in front of. Uh, as loud as they perform was a bad idea. Bottom line. So. Jack Bird says I myself prefer Sweetwater music, but my second choice is GC because there are two stores close to me. Plus, you can find deals on used gear at GC. There's always deals on used gear at GC. People love to whine and cry and bitch and moan about the offer that they received from GC on their used gear that they were trying to sell, but they never quite seem to complain about the deal that they got on the last piece of used gear that they bought from GC, do they? Imagine that. Play Delay Play says, have you listened to In Flames? I thought you might enjoy the records from the 90s. I remember listening to them a little bit back in the 2000s. I first discovered them when the MTV, or I think it was actually MTV2, resurrected Headbangers Ball. And, they had Jimmy Jasta hosting it. So, and they were, of course, they were playing, modern, at that time, what would have been modern metal at that time, music videos. And there was, In Flames had a couple of videos out at the time. Yeah, thought they were pretty cool. I discovered a lot of bands watching that show late at night. Hayden Hartley says, I knew a guy who thought Kurt Cobain was the best guitarist ever. I wonder what happened to him and his stupidity. Kurt Cobain may not have been the most technical guitar player in the world, but, at the time that Nevermind came out, I remember it took me a little while to figure out how to play that, that riff to Smells Like Teen Spirit. So he was certainly better than I was at the time. And say what you want about him, about his skills as a guitar player, but, you cannot deny his songwriting ability. He was a magnificent songwriter. And, sometimes that is, and Nirvana is definitely proof of this, among several other examples I'm sure we could think of. But sometimes songwriting is equally as, if not more important than, how many modes and scales and, and shred licks you can play over the course of a song. So, really, if you think about it, even your favorite guitar players, what is it that attracts you to a song? I mean, for me, sometimes the solos are cool and the solos are part of it, but, more often than not, it's the song, or a section of a song, in its entirety. The groove, the rhythm, the feel, the melody, all that stuff that makes me really at the end of the day say, I like it, I hate it, or I don't care. Give me a minute. Let me get caught up here with you guys. Joey Van Ostrand says Carrie may have been more visible. You guys are talking about Slayer in the chat. Says Carrie may have been more visible, but the music was clearly defined by Jeff's input and playing style. Last album proved that. Sloppy, disorganized, uninspiring. Yeah, I'm with Joey on this one. As much as I love Slayer, Kerry King's not, never been one of my favorite guitar players. And Even even though he was not the higher profile guitar player of the two, Jeff Hanneman's contributions to that band were significant. So, think about it. There's a reason why Slayer are considered one of the big four of thrash metal. And I think if we all thought about it, we can all agree it ain't because of Kerry King. Pardon me. Andrew Conkey says, I'm fixing up my Triple H Super Strat and I'm wondering with locking tuners and what neck middle pickups you'd recommend. I had a Duncan Invader of the bridge with wiring, split the coils. Ideas. If it's got an Invader in the bridge, I mean, the Invader's a hot pickup, so a real hot pickup. So I'm assuming if you like the Invader, then you're wanting to especially if you got 3 humbuckers in it. I would go with something lower output like a Jazz, Duncan Jazz model, and probably in both positions. The neck Jazz, not the bridge, but the neck. That were me. That's probably what I would do. If you're going to stick with Duncan pickups, which is also what I would do. As far as locking tuners go, Godo, Hipshot, the Hipshot locking tuners are actually pretty affordable. Godo tuners are great. I've had good luck with Grover locking tuners. Spurzels, I've had really good luck with. I've used those on a couple of guitars before. So, yeah, locking tuners are. I really can't think, unless it's those weird ass Planet Waves things where you lock them down from the front side. Those are garbage. Don't are the ones that are supposed to cut the string for you as you put them on. Those are garbage too. Don't buy those. But just about anything else with a thumb screw on the back. It's kind of like a locking nut on a Floyd Rose equipped guitar. They don't need to be. They need to be tight enough, on there tight enough to hold the string in place. Once you tune it up, there's not really a whole lot that go wrong with it, provided you don't strip the gears out on the inside. So, Pardon me. My camera keeps adjusting the brightness every time. I'm trying to stay in front of the window here, because if I move away, then it adjusts for the overexposure for some reason. I don't know how to fix that. Doc Ames Roxy says, may have settled on finding a Reverend to go with my Strat and SG. Music Man is up there too. I say go Music Man. Definitely. In fact, I definitely say go Music Man, because I think Music Man make probably the best, electric guitars, American-made electric guitars, especially for the money. They are really, really, really good quality guitars. Christopher Bass says, personally, I don't think splitting an Invader is a good idea. I could be wrong. I don't necessarily think there's anything wrong with it, but if you got a guitar with 3 humbuckers in it, why are I don't understand what the point of splitting any of them would be. I mean, at that point, especially with something with as much output as an Invader, at that point, change guitars, grab a Strat. Let's see. Hang on a second here. I was trying to get caught up and then I lost my place. Uh-oh. Zoe's telling me she wants out. Slico says, what you vaping? Fruit roll-ups, or, I'm sorry, juice roll-ups, blue raspberry ice. Hang on a second. There we go. Sorry about that. Zoe was needing to be freed. Polygonadin, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right or not. X3 is here. Welcome to you. Timbuktu is here from Chicago. Let's see. Jack Bird says, I love what you're doing all around. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Johnny Piston is here from Silicon Valley. Doc Hamers Rocky says, EVH Wolfgang over similar prices, Music Man. I'd still go the Music Man myself. You know, I mean, you got to think, you know, the original EVH Wolfgang was a Music Man. So, I think it was called the Axis, or you know, now it's called the Axis. I don't know. I don't think they still make it anymore, but yeah, if it were me, I would go Music Man. You know, and I'm not saying that because I own one. Well, I guess I am saying that because I own one, but I'm saying that because I played enough Music Mans to know that they're just really, really, really well-made guitars. So. For, I mean, you know, the same price, you know, for what, like, even with their, what are the, not the, is it the Sterling or the Stiletto, or what is it they're called? I think it's Stiletto that they're, no, I'm sorry, it's the Cutlass. It's their Strat model right now. And, you know, there's, you know, the same, what their version, what their Cutlass is, which is, you know, again, their Strat model, that same model. And the Fender equivalent is probably $300, $400, $500 more, you know, and the Music Man's better made. So, Doc Amos Roxy in the super chats. Thanks. Have you played many Reverends? I played a few of them when they, you know, well, I don't know. I mean, they've been out for a while, I'm sure, but I think back in like 2008. Actually, the first Reverend I ever played was one of the old USA ones, and it was a decent guitar. I mean, it was a good guitar, but you know, it was more, it was that like kind of vintagey style. I don't remember what model it was, but it was like a vintage style thing that wasn't really my taste, but it was a good guitar. And I've learned since then they don't make anything in the U.S. anymore. I don't know if that's still true, if they started building in the U.S. again. My understanding is now they're all imports. And you know, I've played a few of those as well, and you know, they're like, there's nothing wrong with them, and they're you know, they're like tellies for me. You know, there's nothing wrong with them. They're just not my flavor. I mean, I'm likely never gonna be falling in love with a Reverend guitar anytime soon. They just don't do what I want them to do. Ricky Compton says, how's that Chapman guitar you just got? Not the baritone, the ML1 traditional. It's working out great. I'm enjoying it quite a bit. Matter of fact, the video that goes up tomorrow, I think, tomorrow morning, I think, I've already forgotten, I guess, but I think I used that guitar for part of it. So, we'll see. Yeah, no, Chapman's another guitar brand I've been really, really impressed with, and And that's a brand that had a lot of things working against them there for a long time. What with the whole drama there at the beginning of the year that Rob found himself in, and in the middle of switching factories, and because of quality control issues from the first factory. Now I think they're when the smoke clears, and all those douchebags that were listening to other people on YouTube that they should have been listening to. When they all get over themselves and realize that Rob Chapman's just a regular dude with a guitar company, that he's just like one of us that's worked hard for what he's earned. I think they're gonna, that guitar brand and company is going to come out much stronger on the other side when it's all said and done, if they haven't already. So yeah, nope, Chapman guitars are Dungeon approved. James Severn's here. What's up, dude? Christopher Bass says, Cobra, talking about Cobra Kai, says, I watched it on YouTube Red and I'm pissed that it's gone on Netflix, which is useless to me. Well, I think, YouTube Red is, it went to Netflix because that's what most people have. Most people don't, I am never signing up for YouTube Red. Number one, I make more than enough money for them that they should be comping my YouTube Red membership. I make more than enough money for them that they could do that. So there's until so unless they're paying for it, I ain't never signing up for YouTube Red, never. And Netflix, well, I have my gripes with them too. They were the original streaming service, and they're probably they're more accessible to a lot more people. So because when it was originally on YouTube, I got to watch the first 2 episodes like everybody else, and that was all I could see. So. Ernie Ball, Music Man, and EVH have similar feel. Hard to describe, I think. To be honest, I don't know that I'd call them similar, but both equally great. Nothing. I mean, probably, certainly nothing wrong with them. I think the EVH stuff is not priced as fairly. It's not quite as good of a value, and the EVH stuff. Let's face it. Number one, it's hard to find any of it right now because it all sold out after he died, because you got all these greedy bastards that are trying to get rich off of, the passing of one of the greatest guitar players that's ever walked this planet. And number two, a lot of the attraction to the EVH brand are EVH fanatics. So, take that, take that for what it's worth and into consideration. No disrespect, Robert. If anyone else here likes a drink, try out Bud Light Platinum Seltzer. It's a game changer. Sounds like a foo-foo beer to me, but I don't drink any of them. So, if somebody's into it, why not? Ricky Compton says, yeah, Steve Young is Angus's cousin. Okay. Sliko says, I think Stevie Young replaced Malcolm for some gigs back in the 90s, maybe on the Razor's Edge tour. I don't know about that, but I know Chris Slade replaced Phil Rudd on a couple of tours. And that one in particular on the Razor's Edge tour back in the 90s as well. Pardon me. Ricky Compton says, I've gotten killer deals from GC on used amps and guitars. I have too. I've got a video on one of those said killer deals going up tomorrow. How many versions of Floyd Rose are there? A Special 1000, Special 1000. I'm not familiar with the 2000, but I'll take your word for it that it exists. There's what they call the original 1984. That's the expensive one, the one that's still made in Germany. And let's see, the 1000. I think was there a titanium or a platinum or something like that. I don't remember. They've got a bunch of different models now. And most of them all do the same thing. A lot of people shit on the Special because it's a little bit softer metal alloy and doesn't last as long. I've yet to wear out a locking floating tremolo of any kind on any guitar before in my life. So I don't know how that happens. I don't know how people do that. Hey, Bob Bitchin's here. There's a screen name I haven't seen in a while. Welcome to you. Hope you're doing well. Lucas Siciliano says, I watched your videos August 2nd, 2016, comparing different types of tremolo systems. 2016? God, was it 4 years ago I did that video? Wow. Can I ask you which one fits better on a Les Paul, please? Stetsbar Pro 2. On a Les Paul, the Stetsbar is the way to go. One of their models is designed specifically for a Les Paul, but if you're looking to put a tremolo on a Les Paul and not that doesn't require any modification, that's what the Stetsbar is for. They're pricey. They're like, last time I looked at those, they're like $350 or something. So they're not cheap, but they do the job. I think Guitar Fetish, guitarfetish.com, I think they also have a version of that is a little bit cheaper that you might want to take a look if you don't want to spend Stetsbar money. Do you have any hollow body or semi-hollow electrics like Casino, ES335, etc.? I have one semi-hollow body, and that is a BC Rich Dagger. There's a short in the wiring on that guitar somewhere, and I've actually never gone in and done any kind of soldering work on a hollow body or semi-hollow because there's no back panel or anything like that. You basically just got to yank everything out through the through the pickup routes and the F holes. And that's a little intimidating for me. So I keep meaning to take that one down to Tony to get them straightened out. And I've also thought about changing the pickups out on that guitar too, because I'm not crazy about the ones that come in it. And it's just one I've never gotten around to. So getting that one working right anyway. But yep, that's the only semi-hollow or hollow body anything that I have, other than a couple of acoustics. Zoe. What's the matter? She sees something out there that's that's pretty important. Let's see. Dean Harkness says, I'm not a Nirvana fan, but the Showboating Shred was out of hand. That's why they had the impact that they did. Part of it, I don't know that it was out of hand. I mean, back in the, it was kind of the same thing, but in the 70s, in the 80s, they just gotten better at it, and they were using a shitload of Aquanet while they were doing it. um, but it was the spectacle was still there in the 70s as well. It just evolved. That same spectacle, I think, just evolved in the 80s. So you're right. When Nirvana hit, like I said, was it out of hand? I don't know. But were people getting burnt out on it? I don't know. But when they heard something new, all of a sudden, their focus definitely changed. So the world's focus definitely changed. I mean, I ran out and bought Nevermind just like everybody else did. So I got burned on that pretty quick and went back to listen to my shred metal. But give me a minute. I'm getting caught up here. Trying to get caught up in the chat anyway. Jack Bird says AC/DC kept in the family. That's what counts. Just shows class on their part. I think most people would have been disappointed if they didn't, to be honest. So. There's Josh Thomas Troll is back. Oh, we got rid of him. Yep, did now. And you got talking tuners. Happy Guitar-Halloween, says Yuga Man 23. Oh, today is Halloween, isn't it? I forgot all about that. I changed my my tip jar caption, but it seriously just I totally forgot all about the fact that today is Halloween. Dean Harkness says it's a great time to be a guitar player nowadays. $300 to get a pretty solid axe. It will. I just watched a video this morning from Andy, Guitar Geek, and he was, his video was on those Jet guitars. They sent him a bunch of those to unbox and check out, and I couldn't believe what he was pulling out of those boxes for the price tags that he was putting up on the screen. I mean, I don't know what's taken us so long to figure out how to build guitars like this for this kind of money, but I'm glad better late than never, I guess. Those things, and some of those guitars looked pretty sharp. I mean, really sharp, to be honest. So I went and checked out their Facebook page after I watched this video, and they were, and what Andy was unboxing was not, was a just barely scratching the surface of some of the things they make. I mean, they looked really, really good for all of them. $150, as low as $150. $200, $300, $400. I think it was $400 was the highest, most expensive one that he unboxed. I saw an ad on the interwebs this morning that said, Harley Benton is coming out with a $91 guitar for metal players. It's a telly body with a pair of humbuckers and a satin black finish. With it looks like kind of something in the Jim Root neighborhood. Looks kind of like one of his signature models. Which is probably what they were going for. And $91. I haven't seen a guitar like that for $91 in I don't know how long. My very first guitar, brand new when I was a kid, wasn't $91, and that was 1988. Yeah. Yeah, no, I think it's pretty remarkable what guitar builders are making these days. And what's cool about them is, a lot of them, and a lot of them are probably pretty comparable to even some of the Squier stuff. But while there's nothing wrong with Squier guitars, somebody like me, I can't play. I can't use a Squier guitar on, in one of my videos to demo something else because whether this is right or wrong, this is, perception is reality in this case. There's a contingent of viewers out there that just won't take me seriously because I got a guitar that says Squier on the headstock. So, there and I think at this point that brand's just always going to have that stigma around it. So, I can't do that. But I could play a Harley Benton or equivalent guitar in the same price range, and nobody's going to say a word about it. So, no, I think it's fantastic. Finally, companies, other companies are starting to figure out how to build excellent quality instruments for very, very little money. Matt Maruzek says, have you seen that insane metallic green Ibanez? The thing looks sweet. Wasn't set up or playable in the store, so I couldn't play it. I don't know which Ibanez model you're talking about, but unless you're talking about the Ibanez behind me that I just held up here a little bit ago, in which case I don't think you are, because it's neither not in a store, nor is it neither not set up or unplayable, because I just used it the other day, which is why it's sitting behind me. But if it's anything like this guitar, this Ibanez behind me, I'm sure it's a pretty good guitar. I like Ibanez. Part of me is surprised I only own one of them, Johnny Piston says, Celestion Alnico Cream versus Jensen Blackbird or other 12-inch Alnico for high gain. Dislike vintage 30s. Ugh. Honestly, I've never. Well, the Alnico, I don't know. To be honest with you, the creambacks I'm familiar with. Alnico Cream, on the other hand, that one I'm not familiar with. If it's similar to the Alnico Blue, which is only a 15-watt speaker or something like that, 25-watt speaker, something really, really low wattage, low power handling speaker. If it's similar to that, that's not the one you want to use for metal. If it's something totally different, then, I don't know. If you don't like vintage 30s, I actually, Eminence makes a lot of good speakers. One of my favorites is actually the Warehouse Guitar Speakers Veteran 30s. And there's a couple of videos up on YouTube of people ABing the Veteran, because it's a vintage 30 clone, but it doesn't sound like a vintage 30, right? There's a couple of videos up of people ABing the Veteran 30s with the vintage 30s, and there's a noticeable difference, very noticeable difference between the two. And I agree. I don't love vintage 30s in every single speaker cabinet on the planet either. Pardon me. Marvin, I've mentioned this before. My big oversized seismic audio 212 cab that I play out of, play my Randall through all the time. That one's got veteran 30s in it, which is a great speaker for that cabinet. JG Mopar says, I think Reverend is all in Korea now. That was my understanding. I couldn't remember what country, but I thought it was Korea or Taiwan or something. Dave Escobar says, I want an ML Hot Rod. Prices have gone up on those. Prices have gone up on a lot of guitars lately, I've noticed. And that kind of seems to be the trend. People start discovering guitars that were around, that were popular 20 years ago. Or they were sold 20 years ago, and a lot of people shrugged them off at the time, and now all of a sudden, they're comparing them to what's being made now and realize, okay, these are pretty cool. See the Charvel model series from the late 80s. Non-existent human says, YouTube autoplay on point. Just finished a video and it automatically brought me here right after. Cool. I didn't know YouTube would do that and start sending people to live streams. That's cool. Hey, Scott Manning's here. What's up, buddy? How are you? Scott Manning is actually a personal friend of mine, and Scott Manning is one of the best guitar players in this city, by the way. How do I know that? Because not everybody gets the opportunity to open for Steve Vai like Scott Manning did. Scott's a good dude. Used to buy gear from me all the time. DJ Calvi says, "All right, Robert, what do you think of getting an MXR Echoplex delay in front of the amp? Will it give me a little of that old EVH tone?" Yep. Yes, it will. It depends on the amp, of course, but yes, it will. It depends on, Pete Thorne did a video on that a long time ago on that, just search for that specific pedal, the MXR Echoplex delay, and look for Pete Thorne's video on it, and he actually demonstrated the very exact thing that you're trying to do in that video. So it explained everything really, really clearly. I learned a lot about the Echoplex and tape delays, from that video by itself. So go watch Pete's video, and that'll tell you everything you need to know, I promise. DJ Calvi says, "Can I tune my guitar half step down with 9 to 42 strings?" Most of my guitars that are tuned half step down have 9 to 42s on them, so yes. If you like the tension that you get from from that gauge strings and that tuning, then yeah, you'll be fine. You'll know if it's not right. But yeah, for me, it's always been fine. The exception of that would be a Gibson scale guitar. It works okay on 25.5-inch Fender scale guitar. But if you're going to do that on a 24 3/4-inch Gibson scale guitar, then you might want to go to 10 to 46 or something. Because the shorter scale length, you give up some string tension in that instance. And 9 to 42, try it and see what you think, but you may need to go something a little heavier. Usually on my Gibson scale guitars, that are in that tuning, I usually go 9 to 46, to be honest. Uh-oh. Yes, everybody, please keep their politics out of this thread. I'm begging you. Anybody brings politics into this, I'll boot you. I don't care who you are, and I don't care what side you're on. eSafety. Okay, this I'm going to overlook this one because it looks like the English might not be your first language, and which is okay. But I typically do not answer to Rob. It drives me absolutely batshit crazy. But says, for you see more boutique manufacturers nowadays in the U.S. There's seems to be more. Well, yes, there seems to be more and more boutique manufacturers, and I don't know if you're talking about guitars or amps or pedals or whatever it is, but there's always seems to be more boutique manufacturers coming up all the time. There's a lot of American-based companies, but a lot of those companies actually source their manufacturing overseas. Because there are a lot of it's a lot more it's more cost effective, and they can crank out a lot more product in a much shorter amount of time. And oftentimes, quality-wise, I mean, you never know the difference where the hell it was made. Some, some companies, like Wampler, those are made in the U.S. Wampler's, they're not a new boutique company by any means. They've been around a long time, but newer companies such as Highwind, for example, Highwind Amplification. They're his. That's a guy named Jordan Gale, and Jordan's the Direwolf Overdrive is getting to be a really really popular boutique overdrive pedal, and he's a one man show. He's Tony Pepper has helped him design that pedal, but Jordan builds them all out of his all himself, out of his own garage basically. He might bring in a buddy or somebody to help him out every now and again, but for the most part he builds every one of those from the ground up. So which is one reason why they're as expensive as they are. And they're not absolutely asinine affordable. I think he sells it for $180, but they are it's a killer pedal, but there's just not a lot of them out there. So, there's different business models that work for different companies and, and different brands. And, there's not necessarily anything wrong with any of them. Christopher Bass says, I've decided I do not want anything shaped like a Telly. I actually don't mind the Telly body shape. I think that, the body, the body shape is fine, but on actual Telly, it's that twang that works great for a lot of styles of music, but the styles of music that it works great for are none that I play myself. So Ronnie Webster says Schecter's really been killing it. I've got an Indonesian Omen Extreme 6, which is $300. It's killer. I also have a Korean C1 Platinum, which is $600, and it's my favorite guitar. I feel the same way about Schecter that I do about Music Man. I feel the same way about Schecter on the import category that I do about Music Man in the USA category. And I agree with you. I mean, quality, especially consistency quality. Really, and they've been doing this for years. I know there's been some complaints lately, but near as I can tell, it's all been nitpicky shit. But their quality's been really, really consistent for a long time, and you get a lot of guitar. You get a very fair amount of guitar for the money. My CR6 that you guys have seen in several videos, I've had it for about a year now. I've used that guitar. I've used it a lot more than I thought I would, to be honest, because it just plays as well as it does, and I like the way it sounds, and I like everything about it. It just performs great. They're just great guitars. Their prices have gone up a little bit, and in recent years, but so has everybody else's. I mean, it's not their fault. Oh, YouTube. You suck when you do that. I'm trying to get caught up in the chat again, and I scrolled down just a little bit, and it jumped down about 2 full pages below where I'm trying to be. I'm trying to not to fall too far behind you guys, because somebody mentioned a couple of weeks ago when that happened. I mean, it was like 30 minutes or so. Somebody had asked a question before I got to it. JG Mopar says I have the gold Telly John 5. Gold John 5 Telly does metal really good. I would like the first run of the John 5 Tellys. So, the original American-made ones with the three. There were 3 and 3 headstock. Those were really, really cool. I mean, that guitar looks like a motorcycle. I thought that guitar looked kick-ass, but they were really expensive when they came out, and that's not really a Telly. I mean, that's heavily modified with, it's got, I think that one had a Bigsby on it, and high output humbuckers. I mean, it doesn't sound like a Telly at all. Ebony fretboard. Okay, this is funny. Anthony Baltuzza says, ain't what's on the headstock, it's what comes through your hands. Meanwhile, Christopher Bass says, I think of that quote, the tone is in the hands, people sure as hell didn't grow up with my Gorilla amp. And quite honestly, I think there's an argument to be made. I think I can see both sides of that. Johnny Piston says Alnico Cream is 90 watt. If it's a 90 watt speaker, I mean, that's plenty. So, if you like the tone of it, you like the the EQ curve that it provides you, and the 90 watt speaker is not going to break up too early by any means. So, I think that like I said, as long as you like the EQ curve to it, I wouldn't be afraid of it. At least, might as well try it. And if you don't like it, I mean, Celestians are pretty easy to resell. Jack Bird says my first electric guitar was just under $200, and that was in 1978. Things have come a long way as far as cost goes. Mine was made as well, or well made as well. Yeah, mine was, mine was it was a Strat copy that, at the time it didn't seem like it was, it was any, any experienced player would have thought it was anything special at all. They would have thought it was a entry-level guitar, but I still have it, and comparing it to some of the really the entry-level cheap stuff that's coming out nowadays, I was luckier than I thought. JG Mopar says, this is where I go to escape politics. Me too. God knows I certainly have plenty of my own strong political opinions, but I don't want any of them or anybody else's anywhere near my YouTube channel. I'll boot and ban people immediately. Like I said, I don't care which side you're on, even if I agree with you. Did you get the you guys are still talking amongst yourselves. William Silva says, my buddy just got his dire wolf. It took almost 8 months. He was backed up there for a while, and I don't know if if a big YouTube channel demoed it or something like that, but it seems like something got a hold of it. Somebody got a hold of it, and all of a sudden they blew up, and the world discovered them, and all of a sudden, he just had orders pouring in, and he filled what he could at the time, and then it just, I mean, I think he's just to the point now. He's caught back up. I bought mine, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 months ago. He shipped mine out within a week, but yeah, but he got backed up there for a while, and that's good to see. That's signs of success for him. So, pardon me. Dave Escobar, Schecter, Super Shredder, Sun Valley Super Shredder. Yeah, excellent guitars. I demoed one of those on my channel a while back too. Matter of fact, that one belonged to the same friend that owned the Music Man that I demoed the first time. He went and sold that one. He sold both. He sold both of them since then. And when he went to go sell both of them, I loved both of those guitars. And at the time that he went to go sell each of them, there were times that I was not in guitar buying position. So that may be the name. I may just, because I've been putting off buying my own Super Shredder, Sun Valley Super Shredder for a while now. I may just say the hell with it, make that the next one I buy. I don't know yet, but I got to get the rest of my GC card paid off first before I buy anything. I told myself that's what I'm doing, that first. No more gear for the rest, for the rest of the year. Christopher Bass says Schecter used to be like $899 for a Blackjack ATX, which was world class. Now it's like $1,500 for a C1 Apocalypse, which I would say is the same tier. Now the C1 Apocalypse is way above, above where the Blackjacks were. I love the Blackjack series too. I was sad to see those get discontinued. You guys have probably seen me play my Blackjack on my channel more than any other guitar that I own. But so I mean I'm a fan of the Blackjacks, but the Apocalypse guitars, those are definitely high, those are definitely couple notches above the Blackjacks. DJ Calvi says, Robert, you should make a video how to set a compressor pedal with a metal sound. I actually attempted that about 3 or 4 years ago, and number one, I don't use compression on I don't use compression on any of my guitar tones at all. Just not a compressor guy. I've never needed it. Always preferred overdrives, and and I've always played with enough gain. I don't need compression. Adding more compression to an already uber compressed signal is to me has always been a little redundant. So I know people out there do it, but generally speaking, it's yeah. I don't even know how I tackle that, to be honest with you. Rondo Bondo is here. Ronnie Webster says, Robert, are you a fan of any amp sims? You strike me as a guy who prefers the real thing. For me, amp sims are more practical for the living situation. I actually use both. And do I prefer the real thing? Yeah, of course. But as an amp that matter of fact, a demo that the video that you guys are going to see tomorrow, that amp is ungodly loud. And I did demo the amp itself, and I did do part of it even mic'd up through a speaker cabinet. The other part of it, I actually ran into my Torpedo Live and used a virtual cab on the back. So I love the 2 notes wall of sound cab sims. I love those quite a bit. And as far as amp sims, I've actually been really impressed with that new ML Sound Fluff signature amp sim that came out a few months ago. I've used that, actually, believe it or not, on a few videos. And and I've just got you can buy the full version. It's got like 4 of his amps, but you can also get just the one for free. And that's the one that I've got, and I enjoy it quite a bit. I like most of the presets in it, and there's no cleans in it. It's all various different fluff style metal tones. um, but I like quite a bit. It sounds really really good. For an amp sim, I was impressed. And I've also used the IK Multimedia. I've got Amplitude 4, which is a big collection of amp sims. If I honestly, between everything that I have, if I can't find the tone that I'm looking for, then it doesn't exist. But the IK, the Amplitude stuff, I think is pretty good as well. So, hey, there is the man of the hour. Waleed's here. We were just talking about you a little ago. We heard somebody mention that you were featured on Ola's channel here recently. I didn't know that. I'd post a link in the chat so everybody can check out where you were featured on Ola's channel. Because unfortunately I missed it. I didn't see that. I wasn't aware. And had I been aware, I would have watched it already. So, Rondo Bondo says, I just got my first Marshall Mode 4. Love it, only cost $300. God, you're killing me. I had a chance to buy Mode 4 a few months ago. Somebody was selling one. I don't, I think Facebook Marketplace or something like that. I don't remember how I got in touch with this guy, but, he was only asking $250 for it, and of course he would have had to ship it, but I should have just done it, and I didn't. I was hesitating about it just because I just didn't want to spend the money at the time, and I should have done it because I wanted a Mode 4 forever. So yeah, I'm still kicking myself for that one. So congratulations, though. I'm jealous because I want a Mode 4. Non-existent human says, random thought here, since we all watch guitar videos here on YouTube, have you all been seeing recommendations for a Klon Centaur pedal? Feels like YouTube is really trying to sell me onto those pedals. I don't think so. I think the big boom with that recently was, I think somebody sold one, or somebody listed one. I don't know if it's sold or not, but somebody listed one for an original Klon for sale for like $4,000 or $5,000 or something like that. Which, pardon me. If you're not familiar with the Klon circuit, it's a pretty basic overdrive pedal circuit. I mean, there's nothing really crazy about it. There's no oddball, hard to get components or anything. It's just it's really pretty a basic circuit, and so why those those original Klons are suddenly worth so much money, nobody seems to know, but they are. So there's been a lot of people comparing, I guess some of the really really big channels have had the means to get a hold of, an original one. And I'm now kicking myself for not buying one 10 years ago when I had the chance to buy one for $1,000. But but I didn't buy it because it was just, it's a 3-knob overdrive. There's nothing crazy about it. Regardless, now they're bringing out a lot more money, and so the idea here is, do you really need to spend that kind of money, or can you get by with a clone of some kind that's $100 or less in a lot of cases? So so I don't think it's a YouTube thing as much as it is, everybody's mind is blown that somebody's trying to may have even gotten $5,000 for their original Klon Centaur. Johnny Piston says, thanks for emptying my wallet. I have to get a Direwolf now. Sounds killer. You're welcome. You'll like that pedal though. It's killer. That's a great pedal. Best. It's a Tube Screamer circuit. Best Tube Screamer circuit that you've ever gotten your hands on though. Jeff Parker's here. What's up, dude? Yeah, we've been going for a little while already. Or actually, I don't know. May wrap up here shortly. This is usually the point when people will, the viewership kind of starts to dip down a little bit, and people get sick of listening to me yap, and go about the rest of their weekend, and I ran out of things to talk about. So, Charles 75N says, better to hesitate and miss a deal than to rush one and regret it. Yeah, true. There's some truth to that. I tend to be, I do tend to be pretty conservative with my money, and in my spending. So I don't, when I buy gear, I usually make sure I'm getting the absolute best deal that I can find. Number one, and number two, I don't buy it if I can't afford it. So, or even if it's questionable whether or not I can afford it is another thing. So, yeah, it's the combination of all those things, I suppose, is probably the main reason why I didn't. So, Park Kingery says he just bought his Christmas present. Cool. JG Mopar says, my biggest regret was selling my JC made 150 watt head in the early 90s. I can't believe I've never owned an 800. I love JC 800s. I can't believe I've never owned one. Well, probably because they're ungodly loud. And that's an amp that you have to crank up to get it to do what it does. And I could justify doing, cranking up that, that amp in my own house, because half the time when I'm recording guitar, most of the time when I'm recording guitar playing, I'm usually the only one here. But, my neighbors are not too far. Johnny Piston says, Music is Wind bought a Klon for $5,000 and did a pretty popular vid on it, hence the hubbub. They're heavily inflated. Yeah, that's the one. That's the video I was talking about. Tyler's video. I didn't see it. I saw the thumbnail and the title, and Philip B says, have you heard the band Clown Core? No, never heard of them. BudgetGuitarist.com says, what if people aren't willing to pay crazy money for a Klon 10 years from now? I don't think that's going to happen, man. It's not like, Guitar Gear doesn't seem to be, it doesn't seem to, be quite as volatile on the collector's market as, for like comic books or baseball cards. I used to have a huge collection of comic books, and like I had like 2,500 books, and it was, and there was some good stuff in there too. A lot of X-Men, hard to find Spider-Man stuff. I didn't have any really, really old, really valuable stuff, but I had a lot of stuff from the 80s and 90s, with some pretty, again, significant books in that collection. And when I went and sold the whole thing, I got $300 for the entire collection, and I had invested a lot more than that when I bought them, and I bought them all cheap. So, comic books just took a serious nosedive right there in the mid 2000s, and baseball cards just did the same thing. I've still got a shitload of baseball cards, and at this point I don't think they're ever coming back. So, they're just not, that stuff just doesn't maintain, just for whatever reason, the floor fell out from underneath it. But, in the instance of Guitar Gear, number one, it's, not nearly as mass produced as baseball cards or comic books. So, there's not nearly as much of it out there. And, number two, there's, especially if there's a specific piece of music that's centered around, a piece of gear, for example, the Phase 90, is famous for, Eddie. That was, Eddie Van Halen made that pedal famous on the intro, all throughout Ain't Talking About Love. And, so the original ones of those, yes, they were mass produced, and, they're, but what do you pay for them now? $300-400, something like that. I mean, they're never going to go below that. So, I mean, yes, you can buy the reissues and stuff, and the current versions for much cheaper. You can buy those all day long. And at the end of the day, there's really not a whole lot of difference. But, an actual original MXR Phase 90 from 1974, whatever year, there's a very finite number of those in the world that still exist. And, especially center, when you put the history, the Van Halen history alongside it, there's always going to be Van Halen fans. We know that. So I think that's the difference between those two collector markets, for what it's worth. Dean Harkness says, one of the reasons I like James Hetfield so much. I don't know what reason that is that you're referring to, but I'm curious to know what you are referring to, because I love James Hetfield. Mademan74 says, thought that Klon has just started making them again, albeit in very low numbers for around $2,000 each. I've heard that. I've heard that as well, and I've heard that a couple of times over the last year or so. Now, is it true? That I don't know. I guess we'll just have to wait and find out. But if it is, and he's making them the exact same way that he was making the originals, it's. The argument can be made that if one day those will be worth a gazillion dollars too. So, that's one of those things you're just gonna have to wait and see. So I'm sure that he'll have to change up something a little bit different, at least so he himself can identify the difference between the original run and the new ones. But yeah, if you could build yourself a simple little 3-knob overdrive circuit in a box and put a cheap little paint job on it and sell it for $2,000, wouldn't you do that? I know I would. Ronnie Webster says, let's get Halloween related here. What are some of your favorite horror movies? All-time favorite series is Nightmare on Elm Street. Love Nightmare on Elm Street movies. Friday the 13th movies, of course. Love those as well. And later on, the first couple of Saw movies, I thought were great, especially the first one. And Hellraiser was fucking trippy. Let's see what else. Child's Play. Earlier ones, I mean, those got pretty stupid as they went on. I think by the time that was the fifth one or something, those got dumb. Those got considerably cheesier as they went on. But yeah, those are some of my favorites. The slashers anyway. So non-existent human says, I'd be happy with a Tube Screamer, but I'd probably be labeled that cheap guy compared to the guys who paid $4 to $5K. I don't think so, man. I mean, the guys that aren't, quite in my opinion, the guys that paid $4,000 or $5,000 for an overdrive, that's stupid. Idiots pay that kind of money for freaking overdrive pedal. I'm with you. Give me $100 Tube Screamer or Tube Screamer circuit or OCD or something like that. I'm a much happier. I'd be a much happier guy anyway. I like the Klon circuits, but especially with all the clones that are out there nowadays, why do you need, if you're just after the tone and not the collectability, why do you need to pay that kind of money for it? That's ridiculous. If you got that kind of money, you can afford it, great, knock yourself out. But, for most of us that don't. Ronnie Webster says, I must ask because Halloween is my birthday. Happy birthday, dude. And I must celebrate by binging on horror. I have the new Friday the 13th box set, and it's getting watched today. That sounds like a pretty good place to start to me. Rondo Bondo says, I'm very surprised at the Mode 4. Sounds surprisingly good at low volume. That, you have the solid state power amp side of that amp to thank for that. The reason why you got to crank up most, all tube Marshalls is because of the power amp section. You got to get the power tubes good and hot. And with a solid state power amp, there's no tubes to have to do that to. So that's one reason why you can play it at much lower volumes and get away with it. It's actually another reason why I like that amp. It sounds like a Marshall, but you don't have to go deaf playing it. Paul Ewing's here. Says, yes, you can get a real new Klon, but it is $3,000. See, I didn't realize they'd gone up that much. I mean, I thought they were still selling, I thought I'd seen a few on eBay sell recently for the $1,500, $2,000 range. But Park Kingery says his birthday gift that he bought himself, he sent it to me. What is it? He bought that Witch King. I saw you posting about that on Facebook the other day. I don't know much about it. Was that a kit? You got it. You buy the body and the neck and everything, and then outfit everything else with it yourself. That's what it looks like. Looks cool, though. Dave Escobar says, Boss OD1 have gone up crazy prices. Yes, they have. I think I paid $35 for... Wow. Yeah, if you pay $35 for yours, yeah, now those things are... original OD1. That was Boss's first stomp box, so those are, what, $250, $300? Easy, if not more. Made in Man 74, Klon like a 59 Les Paul, 800 made and only 4,000 of them left. Yep, that is true. Hey, Dawn R's here. She says, just decided I'm going to be me for Halloween. Atta girl. I'm pretty much doing the same thing. My Halloween excitement might consist of me getting in the car to go to the grocery store and get some stuff. We got some pretty decent weather today, so I may fire up the grill one last time this year. I haven't decided yet. I don't know. We'll see. But I'm gonna do some of that, and I got a couple of house chores that I got to take care of, and then I'm on the very last chapter of Final Fantasy VII Remake, and I got to start it over because I went in, I played it once last week and got all the way to Sephiroth, and realized that I had all my characters set up wrong, and I just getting my ass kicked over and over and over again because they can't handle any of his attacks. He just takes them. As I had them all set up more for offense. And Clouds just gets smoked every time that I put him up there. So I got to start damn chapter over and go in and set everybody up for defense. And hopefully, we can finish the damn game tonight. And keep my fingers crossed that, that Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2 comes out in, like, December or something. That'd be awesome. Barbie. I know they're not going to come out with it that soon, but they better. Because they have left out a lot. Matter of fact, they've left out 80% of the story from the first version. Ronnie Webster says, made a slow cooker full of butter chicken. Enjoy some Indian food this weekend. Sounds good. I've got I got a chicken enchilada casserole recipe that I do in the crock pot. That's Mrs. Jackson's favorite. So, depending on how she's feeling, we may do that tomorrow. So, alrighty. Well, we've been going a little over 2 hours here. I'm going to go get started on all this stuff. Been fun hanging out with all of you. As always, thank you to those of you who supported this channel through the Super Chat. And thank you to the rest of you who supported this channel just by being here and hanging out, man. It's all important. Like I said, one of these days I'm hoping I can, I can get this thing up big enough to, where we got 50 or 60 people here every week. So, that would be cool. But walk before we can run. So, anyway, I'm out. Have a good weekend, everybody. Don't forget to check out the video tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. And, yeah, later.